Hey, welcome back to Out of the Box with Christine, the podcast for conscious entrepreneurs, where I, Christine Blasdell, get to bring to you, the conscious entrepreneur, some master teachers in all realms of life: health, wealth, love, prosperity, abundance, and you name it. If it's about making your life better, we're going to be talking about it on the show. Stay tuned. It's going to be a great episode. Everyone, welcome back to Out of the Box with Christine, the podcast for conscious entrepreneurs. And I'm really excited about today's show. It's something that I've been looking forward to for quite some time. My guests today are Sam Mitchell and Gina Mitchell. And Sam is not only an incredible podcaster in his own right, he has a program called Autism Rocks and Rolls, which can be found on Podbean, YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, all the major platforms. We're going to make sure that we have links within the show so that you can subscribe to Autism Rocks and Rolls. But Sam is a high school senior who was diagnosed with autism at the age of 4. And joining him today is his mom, we say mom in Australia, who is promoter, number one fan of Sam, Gina Mitchell. And I want to thank you both, Sam and Gina, for joining me on the show today.
Thank you for having us. We're happy to be here.
Thank you for having us. Good to be here.
Well, Sam, I have to tell you, I was quite impressed. I was quite impressed with your show. Number one, I'm a coach. I'm a podcast coach, and I work with a lot of adults who are twice your age, who don't have autism, and they've got lots of time and even money to spend on creating a podcast. And you, my friend, have really rocked it with Autism Rocks and Roll. Tell me a little bit, how did you get interested in creating a podcast?
Yeah, I got it. So yeah, I'm Sam. By the way, I'm a senior at my local high school. And yes, I do run a podcast called Autism Rocks and Rolls. And it's about autism and how we cope with daily struggles that you may or may not understand. How I got involved with it is I am at our school in Indiana. We have a big national hospitals called Riley, where sick kids go and possibly die or get better. And we are there dance marathons though, where you can jump, dance, shoot hoops, really do sumo suits. But our school had our first annual, and I see people bring down cameras and microphones. Now, what are they doing? So I asked them, okay, what's the deal? Blah, blah, blah. Can I join? The advisor said, sure, join next year. Fast forward next year, that's where I found the podcasting. That's where I still do some episodes on my own school's podcast, Thundercast. And I decided after a while, because it eventually got stale for me, I still run it, but it got stale. I want to add something to my agenda, keep myself a little more busy. So that's where I create Autism Rocks and Rolls.
And when you say keeping yourself a little busy, I know, because I'm a podcaster, I'm a podcast coach, I'm a radio producer, and I know all that's entailed in creating a podcast. It's not just plugging in a microphone and getting started, but you do just about everything on your show, right?
Yeah, I do interviews, behaviors, and some entertainment ones that are just for fun.
Yeah, he does like we were talking before, he's the voice behind the microphone. Lots of the ideas come from him, and I work behind the scenes. I do everything that you really don't see, but I have lots of ideas. We have conversations about it, but ultimately he does it. He edits. I do a lot of the following up and contacts, and I maintain his website and things like that. But
typically the editor would edit, but I'm like, you're not taking away my editing.
He loves that part of it.
You know why? Because it's you're a producer in the making. You are definitely a producer if you like to listen and pay attention to details. And I know we have a son that has autism, and it's very much the details, making sure that everything is done correctly. So But I applaud your tenacity in becoming a podcaster. And actually, the show is doing really well, right? It's also on YouTube, so people can find it on YouTube. But it's doing quite well right now.
Yeah, it's doing pretty good. Can't really complain about it.
And
He's up to what 45? I think over at this point.
Over 4,000 downloads.
Getting
4K.
Getting close to 5,000 downloads. So,
well, after this, you're going to have more. Okay.
we hope.
We hope. We can't say for sure, but we hope.
Yeah, and I was speaking to you too, speaking to both of you before we started recording for the show. I'm a bit of an intuitive, and what I saw, I don't know when you'll have time for it there, Sam, but I did see a book, and a book written for other children and teens, especially on the spectrum. Just your perspective and your message, and your message is actually really powerful, and I wanted to reiterate that. Looking at your bio, one of the things that your one of your missions is to spread the information, especially about you and children that are similar, is that in your words, I am not broken. Look at me. Do not ignore me because I have autism. I am a functional member of society. I can do what you do, just a little differently. Can you expand on that for our listeners and our viewers?
Well, it kind of says it in there, but I'll try. But it does mean that I'm not broken. I can do it I'm doing it my way, or I'm not doing it, maybe, kind of issue. Like I'm gonna do it my way, but in a different way. I'm gonna do it in a different path, take path B instead of path A.
And do you, one of the things too that you were saying that you wanted to do was to do more public speaking. Have you spoken in public yet?
Yeah, I just actually once one of my events, I'm also in JAG, which stands for Jobs for American Graduates in my school. It's teaches you job skills, and I won the entrepreneurship plan, and I got first place, and I'm going to state, and I won $300.
Nice.
US dollars.
Nice. Mom, are you proud of that?
Well,
how can we say this? How do we celebrate after?
So, well, I'll tell you what happened was, from my perspective, was he did enter this contest, and his teacher, we have to give her shout outs, Miss Jamie Bellman at his school. She helped. She helped him so much. And I helped him with the presentation, and he practiced just to talk about his podcast, but it's also a business. I mean, he's turned it into, he's an entrepreneur. And so what was funny was he had to go virtually because of COVID, everything's virtual now. He had to go before the judges and explain his presentation. And I couldn't be in the room with him because he had to do it. But I was so proud when I was listening to him talk, and then we had to wait. It was a few weeks, and then it was this past Friday. He found out that he won in the entrepreneurship category out of several people, and he now gets to go to state and potentially win. I think, what is it, $3,000?
Oh, that's nice. That'll be nice.
I was proud. I teach, and some of my fellow colleagues knew that was the day that we were going to find out. And so when I got the text that he won, I just had, I was by myself in my classroom because the kids weren't in yet, and I had to tell somebody. And so I busted out of my classroom, running down the hallway, he did it. He won. And anybody that would listen to me.
How much people listen to you?
Lots, because they were like, we don't know who you're talking about. Who won what?
But we're happy for you. We're so happy for you. Well, and speaking of schools, Sam, your podcast is actually being used as a resource in some schools. Can you talk about that?
Sure, I know one. As far as that, I don't know a lot. I'll be honest with you. I mean, she may know more about that than I do. But I do know one of my former teachers, Mr. Ray. He was my geography teacher, and he had to move due to career circumstances. but he's now a resource teacher, and he is using my podcast in his curriculum. I don't know what for, granted, but.
And I've used it. I've used it in my classroom for 2 years in a row, and I'm getting ready to use it again. So it's definitely worthy, of being in the classroom. If you're teaching point of view, or if you're teaching, I mean, you could use it for anything, especially in a resource room,
Well, and especially acceptance of others, and just, I remember when I was actually I think it was like my first year in high school, one of the things that a teacher did, and it was so brilliant, was to offer us teenagers a perspective about being an elderly person. And so we had things where if we had we all wore glasses, not like seeing eyeglasses. See, I can't see anything without them. But we all put some glasses on, and they were either like super strong, or they would have like Vaseline on them or something, so you could hardly see out of them. We had to stuff our ears with cotton balls and put little stones, little rocks in our shoes. And it was, and everybody was like, what is this? And the thing was that it was just sort of being in the shoes of someone else and understanding that maybe you might have to repeat something, right? Because somebody didn't hear. So I just thought that was really interesting. And that's a great thing that you're doing with the podcast. I have, and I'm going to personally write this person. I am good friends with Ed Asner, who's an actor in Los Angeles, and he has a autism organization. It's called I think it's Ed Asner's Families of Autism organization. And what I'll do is I'll send him and the organization a link to your podcast, as well as your contact info. And quite possibly they could use that podcast and have you be a speaker. I don't know what will come of it, but I got a really good hit on that. And at least, for the very least, at least having the podcast as a resource. But I'll have them reach out to you if they can, because Ed, I believe his son and his grandson have autism, and he has donated his time, his effort. He's had charity functions to raise funds for resources for families with, yes.
I know who that is. Like, what?
You probably tell us what movies he played, and she might remember.
No,
Oh, you remember Mary Tyler Moore Show? He was on that. He was in Up. Remember that beautiful animated movie called Up?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's one of my mom's favorites.
He was the old man.
Oh, I know who he is. Yes. Look, Sam.
Is he the old man?
Yes. We know who he is.
Yes. He's a love. He's a dear, he's an angel. So what I'll do, though, I'll send this show, but I'll send the link to Autism Rocks and Rolls, and your contact info, because I just have a feeling it's a really good connection for you guys as well. Okay.
We want that. We really appreciate that. He wants to speak so badly, and we've been trying to get more gigs so that he can speak, but it's slow going. So
yeah, it's a slow motion process.
Well, we'll speed it up a little bit, okay? And there in Los Angeles, because the center has so many resources, they have camp. When pre-COVID, they had actual camps for kids, but they have a lot of things there in the Southern California area. And because there's not a lot of resources available, or people don't know about them, they're kind of like a hub for people all throughout the United States and globally as well. So I'll make sure that I get in touch with them. I'm sure they would love to talk to you. I wanted to get back to with Sam on something. I know that there are daily struggles for you with autism and just dealing with the world, but maybe you can share some of those. What would you say are some of the struggles that you have that maybe other teenagers that are your age don't have?
Oh, that's easy. I can give you some of those.
Okay.
I have anxiety really bad. That's kind of a typical teenager one, but mine's over the top bad. social, like different types of anxiety, like social anxiety, anticipatory anxiety. I have very bad sensitive issues. It's mainly to certain sounds. We're getting startled at, I don't really like getting startled. It kind of like makes me mad. um, then let me ask you this. How many times you put your foot in your mouth?
Yeah. Oh, I
I've
do
done
that
that
on the
too many
regular.
times.
Sam,
I've done too many times to count.
Sam, I'm a put my foot in my mouth there from way back.
Well, I've done that too many times with my fingers to count. I don't do plan Bs. I don't socialize the way that society wants us to, and I don't think there should be a way. But anyway, I don't do daily changes well. I used to have really bad meltdowns, and I overanalyze.
Oh wow, you sound so much like our son.
Yeah, he's so, what's so eloquent about it is even from a very young age, he was diagnosed at 4. Even go ahead, even when he was very young, he was always able to communicate with me pretty well and say, this is how I'm feeling and this is kind of what's happening. And so that really helped, along the way, because I was able to kind of understand, not fully, but he's always been very expressive. Like he's always been able to express himself very well. So
Well, and the aspect of change I know is really difficult. With our son, if we tell him exactly what's gonna, this is what we're gonna do, this is how you need to prepare, he's okay with that, and we need to remind him, because he's actually quite a bit in the moment, right? Very much in the moment. But what I find is that is so interesting, with our son, and might be the same with yours as well, Gina, is his attention to detail. And he's able to see things and pick up things. This is another reason why I know that children with autism have a little bit of anxiety with social interaction, because they can feel someone's intentions, right? And they're not into small talk. They're not going to just talk to you just shooting the breeze. How are you doing? How's the day? That's not interesting to them at all.
That's why I don't talk at school. That's, to me, I don't have the time for it, and to me, that's boring.
Yes.
yeah.
It's like, yeah, why? Let's just talk about something else. I mean, granted, I appreciate you asking. That's a good conversation starter, but let's expand on it. Or if not, what's the point?
Yes. Yeah. What's the point? Exactly. And Gina, so you discovered that Sam had autism at the age of 4. Did you have inklings about that before he was diagnosed?
Yeah, I wasn't an expert by any means. I'm still not an expert on autism, but I had a pretty rough pregnancy, and a lot of women do. So I don't know if that had anything to do with it or not, but I was very, very sick for about 5 months. Like, get sick 3 or 4 times a day. Sick. I mean, it was horrible. And so anyway, he was born, everything. I had an emergency C-section, so that was very traumatic on all of us. And then he was like, had colic. Just, he cried from the time he was born until he was like 5.
Yeah, I didn't come out willingly.
No, he cried and cried and cried. He was like 2 weeks late. But then as he was kind of missing milestones, he was not crawling, and he ended up crawling and walking and pulling up and everything like right at once. So there was not this spread out thing. And then we noticed, he's very delayed in speech. He talked, but he said like 10 words when he was 2. And I knew that he should be saying more. And he got better as he got older, but that was when we noticed like change. If we tried to change something, or we would like mess with his toys, or he had something organized a certain way and we messed with it, it would be complete meltdowns. We had to prep him for everything that we did. Like, okay, after preschool today, we're going to Walmart. And if I didn't tell him, he had to know, like what was, and he still.
Well, and a trip to Walmart, is a trip to Walmart for anyone can be a little daunting, but I know someone with special needs, especially all of the the noise and the people. I think it's part of it is the energy because we all have energy as human beings, right? Some of us are bigger and more expressive, but at a place like that, I know same thing with our son. It can be a little bit daunting, that whole process. So we try and also just go in, get the thing, and get out.
That's what I mean. Well,
That's what you there to do. Might as well do it.
I can even remember we were in there one time, and he didn't like loud noises. He didn't like weird noises and spontaneous noises. And so one time the fire alarm went off at Walmart, and it wasn't loud. It was just sporadic. He didn't know like when it was going to go off, and I just remember having to leave like all the groceries and leave because he was so traumatized.
I'm sorry about that still.
It's
okay.
Honey.
Honey.
We've gotten past that.
Yes. Well, that's good. That's good.
But I knew, like, I was pretty, I knew that that's probably what was going on. So we weren't shocked.
Well, and as a parent, because this show is going to be listened to and watched on YouTube from parents of children with autism too. And so I'm hoping that you can also, for those people who don't have a child that's autistic, explain a little bit of some of your challenges, because I know there are so many challenges, especially I don't know if you're a single parent, but my goodness, even if you have two parents there to take care of things and to follow up, and then there's medication and there's diet and all of that stuff. But can you just talk about some of the challenges that you faced as a mom along the road?
Yeah, I mean, what I always said was the challenges changed with his age. Like when he was 5, 6, 7, there was so many tantrums, and so not really tantrums,
and no shirts on,
meltdowns. Like
I'm serious.
He didn't like a shirt to go over his head, like very simple things that, some parents didn't even have to think about. But there were just challenges like that. And then I went through a phase where my husband and his dad and I are married. And so, he does have two parents in the home. And I just remember thinking, he needs to think this way. And I remember like when he was younger, before it kind of dawned on me, like, no, he doesn't need to think like I think. He can't. And he can't think like society thinks. Like, why am I forcing him to do this? And it was just, that's kind of what I learned as years went on. Like, Sam doesn't wear blue jeans. Like, he hates blue jeans because of the way that they feel.
No, it's because of that stupid pocket on your butt.
Yeah, he didn't like the butt pockets, and so it was just like that sensory
or the button.
thing.
I mean, the button on your butt.
Yeah, and his
button on your butt, little room in there.
When he was little, like it would be like the sensory or the small motor skills. He just could not get his pants zipped up, and so I remember just pushing that, like, you need to wear blue jeans. And finally, it dawned on me, like, okay, why are we fighting about this? Like, if he never wears a pair of blue jeans in his life, who cares? And I finally went down that road of, instead of Sam having to work to think like me, I need to work harder at looking at the world through his eyes. And that is advice that I would give to parents as they raise their children, is like, especially someone who's on the spectrum, like, don't make those expectations, because they can't. Like, it's just not going to happen.
And I got some advice to kind of go along with that. Maybe as a solution, if they have to wear blue jeans, give them a substitution.
Yeah, and I got some.
Like, I have a couple of examples. Like, I don't wear blue jeans. I'm wearing, like, right now, I'm wearing khakis. Like khaki pants.
With like elastic waistband.
And it feels like jeans.
And it looks like jeans. Like, he puts on a shirt, and I mean, who cares?
Yeah, and I got another example too. I'm allergic to peanut butter as well. I can't eat peanuts.
Okay.
So I just have soy butter.
Yeah, we've done lots of substitutions along the years.
I can't eat Reese's, obviously, because of the peanuts. So I just have Sun Cups.
Well, and also there's textures as well. I know there's textures with food. There's certain things that are textures as food. And I find that also with especially with teenagers, um and our teenager, he's able now more than when he was younger to try some things. Like for the longest time, he hated avocados, didn't like them, he didn't like the texture, didn't like the color. I don't know. And now he's like, you know what? I think I'm going to try. I'm going to try this. This sounds like something. So that willingness to try is actually so huge. It's such a huge move on their part. Where for us, it'd be just like, well, why not you just try it? Just go.
Yeah, like do it. Like that's that. Oh my gosh. And
Yeah,
that's,
and I try. I mean, with younger ages, it's probably not going to happen. I'll be honest with you. I think it's less likely to happen because they're so stuck on their routine.
mhm.
I'm telling you that right now. I don't think it's happened. So if it's a parent that's young, good luck with that. But if they're older, give it a shot. I think it's worth a shot. They're matured a little more. I think they're like, oh, let's try this. I mean, the worst thing is saying like, ew, no, and then I'm moving on with life.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm wondering because also in the bio that I was reading on with you, Sam, is um, doing more public speaking, obviously at schools and universities. Again, I see a TEDx that I see a TEDx speaking event in your future as well.
I don't
Probably.
even.
He did one.
Did he apply?
I didn't just apply. I did them. I did them. I did one.
You did?
Yep.
He did.
It's not out yet, but it needs to come out. I think it's coming
Oh
out
my
soon.
gosh. Oh, that's so
Like
that's
2 weeks.
fantastic. Bravo.
Yeah. It's about why autistic people need structure in their
Yes.
life.
As soon as the TEDx in the town in Indiana, it's Bloomington, Indiana, 2 hours south of Indianapolis. They host, TEDx, and they asked him to do one, and then he did it. And so they got all the licenses for it. So now it's like 2 weeks, it can be released. So
Okay. So you send me the link and we'll include it in the show notes. Oh, definitely. I'll update it even as well.
Yeah, we got you.
One of the struggles too that you had mentioned, and I don't know how much you faced of this, was bullying. And I think any teenager has to deal with this. A lot of teenagers do anyway. Middle school, high school, the dreaded bullies. And it doesn't matter how different, if you're different, just because you're different, if you're wearing glasses or, you got blue eyes instead of green eyes, who knows what the bullies want to pick on. But can you address that, Sam? Have you dealt with bullies of your own?
Oh yeah, I've dealt with bullies. I dealt with that. It's bothered me it used to bother me pretty bad, really bad, and I come home crying a lot of times. And the times I had told her, I think Mama Bears came out, honestly, pretty bad. But younger me, it bothered me. And I just wonder, like, why is it me? Why can't you go bully the guy to my left and it has to be me? But nowadays, it doesn't bother me. It's like you're wasting your time. You can't break me. You just don't. You're being stupid.
Well, and especially since one of the things too is the anxiety about being pulled out or being focused on. I know, like, being ridiculed will affect anybody. It doesn't matter. You could be the strongest character, around, but when you're being ridiculed or aspects of your body or, your face or something is being pointed out, that can really hurt someone's feelings tremendously. But it's also just having that attention, that directed attention, especially negative directed attention, that can really bother you. I can understand that. Yeah.
Not anymore. It doesn't anymore. It used to. Have you ever heard of Eminem's song Legacy?
Yes. Yes.
If you hear the beginning, that's me carrying, like, used to carrying. Then you get to the end, like towards the end, and I think that in fact I'm doing why it's awesome. Because if I wouldn't be able, blah, 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 blah. Then that's me saying, I don't give a, you know what, probably.
Yeah, he is we have, even when the bullying was happening, because I knew, like, I don't think he's not told me everything, because it's probably wasn't a good idea that he did, because I work in the same school system that he goes to. And I had addressed it, a few times, but we've always taught him to embrace himself, like, no matter what. Like, he has been raised to respect everybody, no matter of an ability, a disability, gender, sexuality,
Race.
it doesn't matter, race. Like, everybody is allowed to live their life just like he's allowed to live his life. And he has always embraced him and that puzzle piece of autism. It's never, in our house, it's never been, oh my God, like, Sam has a And I will say, at first, when he was very little, I went through this kind of, it was almost even kind of like a tantrum within myself. Like, why is this happening to me? Like, I did everything right. And there was no paper that I signed that said, yes, I will do this. I will raise a child and so that was very short-lived. And I finally was like, you're being ridiculous. And we educated ourselves and never once treated it as a negative thing.
Yeah. And I always, and go off that, I always say, like, you don't have to like me. I don't think there's probably a lot of people who do like me. I mean, some people do. I'm not saying like the world hates me or anything, but I bet you there's some people at school who probably don't give a what else about me. But I do command respect. I do that. I don't if you don't want to like me, that's your problem. But command respect, that's not a you problem. No, that's our problem. And I always say too, you don't have to support me, but you're gonna have to deal with it.
You know how proud that makes me of you, Sam, to hear you say that, though. That's so, like I said, kids in high school who don't have autism have a hard time saying that. And that's partly because you respect yourself and you respect your mom and you respect your life's journey.
Family's number one in my life. I don't care. I mean, I'm gruff. I'm always like joke around saying I'm a gruff person, but I know family's number one.
Yeah. Wow. I am so happy that I stumbled across you two and that I was able to have you on the show today. Why don't let us know how people can find out more. Sam, tell us how people can find out more about your podcast show so they can subscribe.
Sure. You can find me on Podbean, Spotify, YouTube, LinkedIn, Stitcher, Apple Podcast, and SoundCloud, and iHeartRadio.
Yeah.
And it's Autism Rocks and Rolls. And why don't you
and my website is www.autismrocksandrolls.com.
There you go.
That's like the hub. If you go to his website, there is a link to, he's gotten several sponsors within the last few months. We've got Perfection Auto Glass, we have Wellspring Pain Solutions. We always like to give them kind of a shout out, but we have those. There is a link for sponsors. He is booked ad space until like February of 2022.
What?
Which is awesome. It's awesome, like absolutely awesome. But we still are offering some kind of mini sponsorship shout outs and things like that. So, but check the website is the thing to look at for sure.
Well, that's wonderful. I'm going to check it out because I could use, I don't mind being a sponsor on the show as well. I'll go check it out. That'd be great. So I'll make sure that we have the links in the show notes so people can click on it. And I do encourage everyone, if you have a member of your family that's autistic or not, you need to subscribe to this podcast show. You need to listen because what Sam is expressing, millions and millions of children don't have that ability. They don't have that platform. And you need to hear the perspective of our children today who are living with autism and thriving within that structure as well. So I want to thank you both Sam and Gina Mitchell so much for being on the show. And I want to thank you wonderful listeners and viewers for tuning in today. If this has touched you and you think you want to share this information, please do share the video on YouTube. It's the easiest way to do it. And of course, you could subscribe to the show. Go to outoftheboxwithchristine.com All the subscription links are there. And if you want more information about me, it's ChristineBlasdale.com. Until next time, as I always say, remember to think outside of that damn box. Bye for now.